Hi guys, welcome to Impenetrable Conversations with Shmita. I am your host. We are here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. I am outside, my neighbors are outside, so you may or may not hear some noises in my background. You might see some of my neighbors walk by. But I am grateful to be here to be able to speak on topics that I believe we need to collectively have conversations on, as well as start to have real individual conversations with ourselves so we can truly heal within and then heal together collectively. Today I wanted to cover the way we walk in our day-to-day lives, projecting our shadows onto each other when we are all light. I've noticed, especially here in America, a lot of us are living in survival mode. A lot of us are forgetting how to live, but instead surviving to make a living. And to me, that is very backwards. Why are we more focused on making a living than just living, you know? And I believe it's a trickle-down effect of our values to these systems, to the corporation, to the powers that be that orchestrate every little facet of our societies, dictates us from a very microcosmic level to a very macrocosmic, big level. There's a lot of things that we are desensitized to, things that we don't pay attention to on our day-to-day lives that we operate by, stigmas that we hold against each other, sometimes even negative self-talk. And that negative self-talk not only affects how we perceive ourselves, it affects the type of energy we radiate. And when I say we walk around projecting from our shadows because we're oppressed from various societal factors that trickle down all the way from the top down to our individual lives. The reason that I want to have these impenetrable conversations is because it's going to take a lot of us talking through generations of trauma, generations of systemic oppression, generations of cultural norms, customs, traditions, in order to see at eye level together collectively what we have learned to operate by and how it directly goes against our natural state of being as humans, our human nature, our spiritual experience in human vessels. A lot of us, especially here in the Western world, forgot that we come from the cosmos. In a sense, we forget that we were once energy before we got into the world and had to develop a personality, a persona. We had to become a part of society. A lot of us wear masks in these societies. We allow our day-to-day to dictate who we are, when in truth, we're not our jobs, we're not what we're studying, we're not where we live, we're not the countries we're born in. We're a spirit having a human experience. And in this human experience, we often disconnect from simply being human. We often forget on our day-to-days being caught up in the rat race, in our daily lives, our jobs, going to school, being a part of these societies. We forget that we are literally light energy before we are this physical body, before we are the personalities before we are, the terms they give us, the doctors, the lawyers, the artists, the musicians, the receptionists, the sales experts. These are terms we give ourselves for what we do. But when someone asks us who we are, we don't really know how to answer that. A lot of the times, we are what we do more than we are who we are. We don't realize that we are oppressed. And unfortunately, we're desensitized to the fact that we're oppressed. We get up, we have a routine, we have to get ready, we have to go to our jobs, and we speak in that way that we have to do this, we have to do that. We feel like we're obligated to be a part of our societies, when in actuality, we get to be a part of villages on earth. We've learned to believe that we have to be a part of these cities, but we forgot that we get to be a part of Earth's villages. And I want to remind us that that's where we come from, and that we were taught and programmed to have to oblige to these societies that we created. So because we operate on this instinct of survival, of having to make a living as opposed to simply just living on this earth, we become disconnected. And when we walk around overcasted by our shadows and not embodying our light, because the oppressions have been draining our light, we don't realize that we walk around with a dead spirit. There's this animation called Kirikau and the Sorceress, and there's a part where the sorceress is walking around the forest with a thorn in her spine, and that thorn symbolizes the trauma and the pain she endured over the course of her life, the oppression, the feeling that she has to make a living in order to survive on earth. And really, she's just oppressed by having to oblige to a world that was created to, in theory, trap her. When we look at it from that lens, a lot of us walk around with that thorn in our spine, and we don't realize that we're the ones showing up, building the society for them to trap us in. And when we just step back and realize, why are we building our own prisons when we can be cooperating with the earth how we used to? When we were in our villages, we were in community with one another. Here in the Western world, we're more consumers than anything. We used to be in community with one another. Then we learned how to consume each other. There's an imbalance of energy exchange amongst us. We give more than we take, and we take more than we give. There's a lack of mutual exchange, and this causes an imbalance of power amongst humanity and on the earth. And when we were created it to steward over this earth. We were granted authority over the birds, the beasts, the animals, the crops. And now we live in a world where the animals go against us, we go against ourselves, the crops are inorganic, there's been so much warfare on our soil. The soil doesn't even have the proper nutrients anymore to nurture. the inhabitants of the earth. Essentially, the earth needs to heal, and in order to do so, the humans need to heal first. That's why I want to have these conversations with you guys. First, to realize that the shadows that we're walking around with, the dead spirits, that in turn kills everything else around us. We are the ecosystem that sustains all life around us. If we're walking around with thorns in our backs, with shadows, casting shadows amongst each other, that is death walking amongst us, and it kills everything that is alive. Now, when we remove that thorn, when we stop projecting from the shadows, when we heal our shadows and transform those shadows into the light that we are, that we were created within, then we restore balance to life on earth. Death becomes life again. Nature is revived. There's an abundance in our spirit. And that abundant energy, it influences everything. So today I want to point out for us to first individually heal our shadows, and then be iron that goes out there and sharpens other iron. We sharpen each other when we're in our light, immersed in our light. You ever notice that when you stand in your light, others who have shadows, those shadows get pulled to the surface? Because darkness cannot hide when light illuminates around it and exposes it. So don't take people casting their shadows on you personally. Be that light, because you're planting that seed for those people to heal those shadows. They can't withstand the light, so all that shadow work that they have to do has to come out of them. They have to go within and realize, nah, I have to pull this thorn out of my back. I can't keep walking around like this. And I'm encouraging everyone that's listening to this, that feels like they're walking with that shadow within them, that they're moving with dead space within their bodies. Release that. Envision yourself being immersed in the light, because that's what you are. And the darkness that exists, it can only exist for so long. So I urge you, heal your shadows. Allow yourself to be restored. Don't let the oppression of the world keep you dimmed. Once we collectively start to see that, we restore the earth. Remember that the more you comply with the society they're trying to orchestrate for us, that is us giving them the silent consent to keep us imprisoned. God did not put us on the earth to be imprisoned. He created us with authority over everything else on earth. He gave us authority over the things he created before he created mankind. That is the power that we hold. And that force that wants to keep us in darkness knows that. It understands that it only has a window of opportunity to sway us from the all-knowing, all-seeing omnipotence that is our creator. And these cameras, these clouds, I'm not talking about the clouds in the sky, I'm talking about the clouds, the Google clouds, the Apple clouds, the AI. That's the omnipotence of the darkness. That's how real it is. Ducks are yelling back. But that is the omnipotence of the force that wants to enslave us. That is not all-seeing. That is not all-knowing. It has to create that for itself. The all-knowing, all-seeing just is. Human beings are just being human. Remember again, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. When we individually know that and walk in that, we can collectively invite others to remember that is how we were meant to live. We don't make a living, we live. Thank you guys for tuning in to Impenetrable Conversations with Shmita. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And I hope this resonates. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Be blessed. Be beautiful. and be immersed in your light.